Example of setting up and using SwiftVISASwift to connect to an instrument. I'm going to be going through how I made this example SwiftVISASwift project that's encapsulated in this .zip file. I'm going to be using this, I'm going to demonstrate this using a Keysight E36103B DC power supply. It's a power supply made by Keysight that has the ability to kind of probe and control the power supply over both USB and TCP/IP. And we're going to be connecting over TCP/IP for this project because that's kind of limitation of SwiftVISASwift. I guess some of the things you're going to need is you're going to go to the SwiftVISASwift repository under the SwiftVISA organization. So if we went to SwiftVISA organization, you'll see there's a number of different repositories. SwiftVISA is where we started. That was a wrapper around the National Instruments Visa framework that's provided. And then SwiftVISASwift is kind of inspired by PyVisaPy, which is, it doesn't use any of the pre-compiled frameworks. It implements everything itself as, in this case, a Swift package. So once again, we're going to be going through how to create this example SwiftVISASwift that's in this zip file. So some things I'm going to need is I'm going to go to SwiftVISASwift, go ahead and get a link to the repository. I'll use that when I put that package dependency in there. And then I'm going to open up Xcode and I'll create a new project. I'm just going to make a command line tool for this case. I'll just call it tests. Put it on my desktop someplace where I'll just delete it later. And then let me resize this to show up in the frame that I'm recording. I'm trying to use a smaller recording frame, so I end up with an enormous file. So here's test. It's a Mac command line tool. So the first thing I'll do is go to signings and capabilities. I'm going to leave the team as none and sign to run locally. That gives me all the access I need. If you want to add capabilities like a sandbox, you can. You'd need outgoing, ingoing, and then you'd have to, of course, sign up for a team and do the correct signing certificate. But if we leave that off, sign to run locally, automatic manage signing, and putting the team to none should work. We're now going to have to add that SwiftVISA package dependency. I've already copy pasted the link, so I'm going to come over here. Let me show that again. Go to the project, package dependencies, hit plus, type that or put that link in there. That's SwiftVISASwift. The main branch is fine. I'll add that package, and it'll add the dependencies we need to wherever it adds dependencies. Next thing I'm going to do is I'll go to File and then Packages, make sure I update to the latest versions. This core SwiftVISA is kind of like, it kind of defines the protocols that anything communicating has to conform to. SwiftVISASwift is an implementation of those protocols, and this socket is blue socket coming from IBM. I don't think IBM is maintaining it last I heard, but it works perfectly fine. So that's what we're using to handle our socket communications. Okay, so we've downloaded everything. We should be good. I'll hit play just to make sure things build. It should be fine. There's a couple little errors, and that's fine. I'm not going to ignore that. Okay, so instead of printing hello world, I'll hit starting example so we know when we start. And then I'm going to import SwiftVISASwift because we're going to be using that. And then I'm going to need some parameters, so IP address. This is going to be the IP address in string form of the tool that you're trying to connect to. So you should be able to get that from the tool or from some sort of network command where you look that up. But I just looked it up directly from the instrument. It has a thing called menu. You go to in-out config, LAN, and look up the IP address that is currently set to you. And then we'll need the port. So a lot of times the port is 5025 seems to be a good one to start with for Keysight devices, and it should be in the manual for the devices. Okay, we're going to need some variables that are going to hold our instrument manager. Instrument manager, and that's going to be of type instrument manager, and that's going to be an optional because there's a chance that it fails when it tries to create one. And we need one for the instrument, and that is going to be of type message based instrument, and that'll be an optional because this might be failable. Okay, let's give ourselves a little more room over here. We don't need that sidebar anymore. Okay, so even though it's a command line, I'm going to break my work up into functions. And the reason for that is I just find it makes the code cleaner, makes it easier to handle throwing. And a lot of stuff in SwiftVISASwift is designed to leverage Swift's air handling. It leverages, it's compatible with async await, actors, throwing, nillable, and throwable initializers, or at least nillable. I think initializers are also throwable. Could be wrong, don't quote me on that one, but certainly we can have nillable initializers. So the first function we're going to create is let's make an instrument. Okay, and we're going to take nothing, and this can throw. And this throw is coming from, no, we're missing the throws. That comes actually from SwiftVISASwift, we'll see. So if our instrument manager is nil, let's go ahead and create one. Instrument manager. I'm not a big fan of how they've changed the completion handlers. And we're going to get the dot shared. Okay, so this instrument manager is a singular instance, and then instrument, and then let's go ahead and create an instrument. So instrument equals, and we're going to try to create that instrument. It might work, it might not. So we'll go to our instrument manager, and that's an optional, of course. And we create an instrument at the address, so the IP address that we typed in earlier, and the port. And once again, this IP address needs to come from your piece of equipment. Same thing with this port. Okay, so we're doing this function is we are creating an instrument manager if we don't have one, and this is still an optional even after we make this. Oops, this is still an optional, so we got to include this optional here. And then we're going to call the instrument manager and say, hey, try to make me an instrument using this IP address and port. And if it succeeds, you'll get an instrument. If not, it's going to throw, and it's going to propagate this throwing error up through this function. Okay, now we're going to create a couple functions that are going to get us some information. So function get info. This is really to try and get the information from the tool. So every Visa compatible tool has the ability to provide some basic information, make, model, etc. So we are going to do a do catch, and okay, we're going to let the details equal, so the instrument details. We're going to try, and we're going to try and instrument. We're going to send this instrument a query, and that query is going to be the standard IDN star. Okay, and then if not, if that doesn't go through, we'll give that a blank. And then we're going to that formatted. I'll just leave that. We'll just leave it like that. The details go through. Then we are going to, and then we need to print those details. So let's do something. Print details. And then if we have a catch, let's print could not get instrument information, and let's print out that error. Okay. And then we'll create another function. I think that's backwards. We'll see what it is. And function update measured voltage. Could be wrong. Maybe it's. I feel like the question mark comes second. Okay, so the update measure voltage, what we're going to do now is we're going to try and probe the instrument and say what's your current voltage at. And why don't I set the system to have something. So I went and set that on my instrument. So the same thing, we're going to do a let measured voltage equal try instrument query, and the string we're using this time is source voltage. Okay, and then we're going to do as double dot self. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to send a query, and okay, we're going to send this query, and we're sending the Visa command, or the instrument command, source voltage. What are you? And that's going to return a string if it works, or a collection of characters. And we're going to tell the system interpret this collection of characters as a double and convert this string that's going to come from this query into a double. So this is our decoder, is double.self. And now we'll print a message. Measured voltage equals, okay, and we can do string describe and this be measured voltage. Okay, and now let's print out an error in case we have an issue. Print could not measure voltage, and print the error. Okay. So now we have a function to make an instrument. We have a function to probe, get information from an instrument, to get the measured voltage from the instrument. So let's create a function that's going to connect to our instrument. So function connect. Okay. And what function connect is going to do is we're going to do catch again. So we're going to try to make the instrument, because this is kind of the first thing we're going to do. Let's make the instrument, and if that has an issue, we print could not connect to instrument at, and we'll put in the IP address on port, and put in that port. And let's print whatever error we get back. Print there. Okay, so that's useful. So now we're going to try to actually make the instrument. And now we'll print instrument, and then we should return. Let's exit out of this. So if we can't make the instrument, there's no reason to go forward. We need some string connected at. Let's go ahead and put in what that is. So string describing and then we'll go update measured voltage, and we'll get info, and then let's hit connect, and now we'll run it. So let me check this. I was a little unsure if I have a typo here. I'm gonna check the information superhighway real quick. Visa, is it star IDN or IDN? Yeah, IDN question mark. Okay. And now let's run it. Oops, I forgot. I gotta allow it. Let's try that again. Okay, so the instrument connected. It's of type optional SwiftVISASwift TCP/IP instrument. The measured voltage is 0.9, which is what it's currently reading on my tool. The info right here is Keysight Technologies. I can't remember what all those things stand for. So there we go. We made a little application. It connected to the instrument. Well, I guess we imported the package dependencies, refreshed those, wrote some code to connect the instrument, wrote some code to run some queries. We can do more code to set the voltage and all sorts of stuff. We're good to go. Okay, hopefully this was helpful.